welcome. In just the next few minutes, we're going to crack the code on the IELTS exam. Think of this as a full course, but, boiled down into a super high-impact strategy guide. It's all about demystifying this thing and giving you the tools you need for a top score. All right, let's jump right in.
So, are you feeling a little overwhelmed by this whole IELTS thing? Yeah, you are definitely not alone. It can feel like this huge, high-stakes challenge, right? But here's the secret. It's not really about having perfect, flawless English. It's more about understanding the game and knowing the rules. And that, my friends, is the code we are about to crack.
Okay, so here's our game plan. First, we're going to get the core mindset right. Then we'll dive into some seriously powerful strategies for the speaking, listening, and reading tests. And to wrap it all up, we'll cover the single most important piece of the puzzle, how you should be practicing. All right, first things first. Let's totally reframe this mission. The IELTS, it's not just a test of your English skills. Nope, it's a test of your ability to decode a very, very specific format. It has patterns, it has rules, and once you learn them, that's when the confidence really kicks in. So think of it this way. This isn't a test you just have to survive, it's a puzzle, and you're here to solve it.
Okay, let's talk about the speaking test. You know, the one section that makes pretty much everyone nervous. But here's the thing, the secret isn't about having a massive vocabulary, it's all about structure. We're going to look at two super powerful frameworks for parts 2 and 3 that will, I promise, completely change how you give your answers. So for that 2-minute talk in part 2, the absolute key is to tell a story. Don't just list a bunch of facts. You want to frame your answer like a little mini movie, It needs a clear beginning, a middle, and an end. It's such a simple structure, but it really helps you fill the time with confidence and, actually make sense.
And the process? It's actually incredibly simple. First, you just set the scene, give some context. Then, describe what happened, in order. But, and this is the important part, that final step, the reflection, that's what takes your answer to the next level. Sharing how you felt or what you learned, that's the key. It shows depth, and it means you'll never run out of things to say. Now, for the discussion in part 3, we switch to a different framework. It's called the R.E.E. method. And trust me, this is your ticket to giving full, impressive answers. So first, you respond directly to the question. Then, you elaborate. Basically, you explain why. And finally, you give an example. R.E.E. See? It's a simple but super powerful tool for building out great answers every single time.
And this brings us to a really important point about speaking. Just be natural. The quote says it all, right? It's about fluency, not forcing it. A short, confident answer is always, always better than a long, hesitant one. So if you're ever in doubt, just focus on sounding natural.
All right, let's switch gears. We're moving on to the listening test. And look, if the speaking test is all about structure, the listening test is about one thing and one thing only: pure, unbroken concentration. Think about it. You get 30 straight minutes of audio, and you only get to hear it one time. That's it. No replays, no do-overs. If your mind wanders for just a few seconds, poof, you can miss an answer. This is a seriously high-stakes focus game. So, how in the world do you stay focused? Well, here's what you do. First, use that little bit of preview time to underline key words in the questions. Second, you have to listen for distractors, when the speaker corrects themselves. Third, try to keep an eye on 2 questions at a time so you're always ready. And maybe the most important tip of all, if you miss one, just let it go. Seriously, move on immediately, otherwise you're going to miss the next one too. Okay, on to the reading test. And this section, it's not just about how well you can read, it's a straight-up race against the clock. How you manage your 60 minutes is every bit as important as your reading skills. So what do most people do? They split their time evenly, 20 minutes, 20 minutes, 20 minutes. But that's actually a mistake. The smart approach is to bank time for Section 3, because it's always the hardest. So try to get through the easier Section 1 in just 15 minutes. That leaves you with a whole 25 minutes to really tackle those complex passages at the end. And now for the golden rule of the reading test. This is probably the most important thing to remember, and it's totally counterintuitive. Ready? Your job is not to read and understand everything in the passage. Nope. Your only job is to find the answers to the questions. That's it. So don't waste precious time trying to understand every single word. To do this, you need 2 different skills. First, you gotta skim. That's just a quick pass to get the lay of the land, to map out the text and see what each paragraph is generally about. Then, once a question points you to a specific spot, you switch gears completely.
You dive in and read for detail, really analyzing that small section to find the answer.
Okay, so we've covered a ton of strategies for speaking, listening, and reading. But honestly, none of it matters if you don't have the right approach to practice. This last section, this is the key. This is what unlocks everything else. Real effective practice happens in 3 stages. Think of it like a workout plan. Stage 1 is skill development. Here you focus on one question type at a time with no time limit. Just master the mechanics. Stage 2 is timed tests. Now you start building speed and accuracy by doing full sections under pressure. And stage 3, this is the one most people skip, full stamina tests. You have to practice the listening, reading, and writing tests all in a row, back to back. Because the IELTS isn't just a skills test, it's an endurance event. And this is exactly how you train for it.
So, there you have it. We've gone over the code, the frameworks, the whole practice plan. You have the strategy now. The only question left is, what are you going to do with it? How are you going to practice? Because at the end of the day, it's that active, strategic practice that turns all this knowledge into a fantastic score.